Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dead On Impressions.
This is Walter Cronkite for CBS News with a special report. Today we focus on bias in the media. Is there such a thing as bias in the media? Is it directed against Republicans or Democrats, liberals or conservatives? This reporter himself, when alive, was falsely accused of media bias. And I want you to know I was not biased. I was simply reporting the news as I saw it, and I earned the title, the most trusted man in America. I frequently discussed a fellow who did not earn as much trust as I did, and I'm referring to the president that we all know as Dick Nixon. President Nixon, how do you feel about media bias today? Can the media be trusted?
I don't think it can. Look what it did to me. They said I wasn't a liberal, but I started the EPA. I started the Consumer Product Safety Commission. And they said I was a warmonger, yet I opened the door to China. They said I didn't like Hebrews, yet I was close to Kissinger. Now, let me tell you about the Watergate thing, because this is new. Yes, I did break into the Watergate, but why? Not to get documents. I sent my people over there for a hoagie sandwich. Did they report that? No.
I think that's a deliberate distortion, Mr. Nixon. I don't believe there was any mention of a sandwich in any of the Watergate records. But now let's turn to someone who also should know about media bias. Ladies and gentlemen, former President William Jefferson Clinton.
Look, the media made up these stories about me and women. I love Hillary, and that's it. Yeah, there were a few strays along the way, but they did love me for most things. I mean, I could do stuff. The American people don't know half of it, and then they would just wink. But they did this stuff on women, and I'm so celibate. That's the word that I would focus on every day. I never really think about women, although I saw somebody in the studio. She looked awfully good. But she was about 21. But that was just a side thing. So, yes, they were biased for me and against me.
That was one of our interns here, former President Clinton.
Look, is that Sandra?
That was Sandra, yes. That was Sandra. We've had her for 2 summers now.
Thank you, Walter. I'll get the information later.
Well, thank you very much, former President Clinton. And now, keeping with the theme, another former president of the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, Ronald Wilson Reagan.
Well, yes, Walter, thank you so much. I know that during the time I was president, there certainly was a media bias, and it was directed toward conservatives and Republicans. You know, the media would often say, let's help the president get his story out. Well, I didn't need their help. In fact, a lot of times when people go to do help, they make the situation worse. I'm reminded of a motorcycle rider who was out on a blustery, windy, icy day, and the wind kept blowing in through his motorcycle jacket, in through the buttonholes. So he couldn't think of what to do. Finally, he stopped the motorcycle, got off, turned the jacket around with the back in the front and the buttons in his back so the wind wouldn't bother him anymore. Well, that was fine. He drove on. There was no problem with the wind, but his arms were so restricted because he had the jacket on backwards that he couldn't steer well, and he skidded on some ice and hit a big tree. Well, the townsfolk gathered, and pretty soon the sheriff happened on the way and said, hey, what's going on here? What happened? And one of the townsfolk said, well, when we got here, this man had an accident, and he was doing pretty good. He was talking and everything. But by the time we got his head turned around, he was dead. So let that be a lesson. Sometimes when people say they're going to help you, they end up hurting you. Thank you, Walter. I appreciate the opportunity to talk again.
Thank you very much, former President Ronald Wilson Reagan. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the way it is. Media bias. Thank you and good night.